Scoot up.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in on this?
Yeah, it's our conversation.
Oh.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. So, as you guys know, I'm Elena Kingethi, and I am here this morning with Paul Kingethi. This is my ex-husband, y'all, that I'll be talking about. That I got in trucking with him in 2008. We got in trucking together. We started a brokerage together, and we just, we always gonna be friends. We're really good friends. That's how a whole nother subject. Don't worry about it. But anywho, this morning we were talking about trucking, and I said, Paul, this is some good stuff, and I bet if I went on YouTube, these people would really, really, really be interested in this. Because we've been talking about the tariffs. I'm gonna let Paul introduce himself and say who he is and things like that, and his company. And y'all, this morning I came in and he had this on my desk because Paul is so analytical, and I was reading it, and it has some facts and stuff. Everybody is like panicked about how this tariff, what it's gonna do, how it's gonna affect trucking, and this and that. And I get phone calls about the freight, and y'all know I run my school. Like, I don't got no trucks on the road right now, and I'm good with that. You know what I'm saying? But I get phone calls about how the tariffs are affecting us, this and that. And my take is anytime there's something new and people just panic, you know what I'm saying? Like, you roll it out and see, like, people need stuff. So trucking, we gonna be good. That's just always my thought. Like, I'm optimistic about this industry. I'm gonna shut up and let Paul talk, and then we probably just gonna continue our little conversation, and y'all can just look and ask questions if you want to, because I just think this was a really good conversation, and more people should be in on it and listen to what we got to say. Introduce yourself. If you want to, I don't want to be bossy.
What?
I said I don't want to be bossy.
No, I want you to be. It's okay. It's you. Anyway. Hi, my name is Paul Kingethi, and this stuff, it's not what I do, getting on camera, so it's a nervous thing for me to do it, but it's all good. So anyway, I have a company. It's called Freight Connect, FR8 Connect, and been doing it since about 2014, 2015. And what we do is work with carriers to help them connect with shippers direct. In that, there's a lot of things that there's a lot that goes into that. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people get into the trucking industry and they don't know what they're really getting into. So with that, once you get into it, it's like on the job training, and it becomes very, very challenging. And when I say very challenging, you have to learn. It becomes a high price to pay, in that education process. But unfortunately, it's what you have to do, because once you're in it, you feel like I can't get out of it. I got to make this thing work, and you're trying to figure things out. And where do you go? A lot of people will go to YouTube, right? And there's a lot of information out there, good information, bad information, but how do you know what's good and what's bad? So what we do is we really work one-on-one, and I'm more on the sales side of it, how to get those opportunities, how to get those direct shipper opportunities.
Paul is like hands down the best freight broker in the whole world. Like, I'm so serious. I tell everybody that. Like, that's how we got in, was brokering. And he, like, when he talks about sales, like, he's so super good at it. Anywho, go ahead.
So I guess picking up where she left off, there was a time where we worked for, what was the company? And we got laid off. Sprint. So we were there and then got laid off. And then a friend of ours gave me a tip, or said, hey, there's a company that's hiring. And this was back in 2001. And so I went to the company. I knew nothing about freight brokering. I knew nothing about trucking at all.
And I panicked, y'all, because we had just got married. And I was like, what is this? Why are you getting that kind of job? But go ahead.
And yeah. Because when we went to do our taxes that first year, right in front of the tax guy, she told me that I need to get a new job. And she found out how much money I actually made.
I did.
And so I was like, hey, you know what? It's okay. It'll be
I
okay.
was
It's
young.
just,
I was young.
it was okay. I said it was okay because this is how it works. You get on a job, a new job, and you learn, and you mature in it, and you advance. So the money that I was
mean.
making,
That was mean.
it was
That
said,
was so mean. Go ahead.
it
That
was said, it
so
was
mean.
that's a true story.
Go ahead.
It was a true story. So what that happened, and I said, no, I'm gonna stick with it. And I did. And the thing was, it did happen. I learned a lot. I didn't know anything about it. I did get the training I need, but I found out it was sales. And sales was, that's on my alley. It doesn't matter, what it is. If we're selling pencils, better yet, any company that you can, it can be a restaurant, it can be a company that sells pencils, tires, whatever it is, clothes. There's a sales element always at various levels. Even the CEO is always selling. But bringing it back home, in brokering is sales, right? It's sales in the trucking industry. You guys are out there on the road driving. You need loads. You need someone to find those loads, right? So you need someone that can find those loads, give them to you so you can keep your wheels turning. That's your salesperson. That's your sales team. That's your broker. That's what I was. I was a broker. So I learned the game, got promoted, became a sales manager. As time went on, I was there for 8 years, I think, with the company. It was a really good company. They've done really well, and they still exist. They got sold to C.H. Robinson, and but I quit to go on and do, work with a guy in trucking, and he had trucks. He had like 6 reefer trucks, and that was 10, and that was in 2008. And then the economy just tanked. And this was when Obama was running for president. We found out that the economy was really bad, and then everything just went to hecky do. But I quit my job. She wasn't, she came aboard. You quit your job too, didn't you?
I got laid off.
Laid off.
I got laid off.
Yeah. Yeah, she was doing pretty good at what she was doing, but she got laid off in the market.
And I thought I was just going to be a housewife and have a baby. Like I had all this envisioned in my head. I was just going to, be the cute little secretary of his business and have a baby and not do too much, just kind of chill, and run, just little computer stuff.
And then life tells you what you're really going to do, right? And that's okay, because while we were in this thing, again, it's a learning process, right? You have to learn, and we learned a lot, because what we decided to do was stick with it, stay with it, even though we went through a lot of struggles. That's how you learn, right? And all the knowledge that she's gained through all that, and just being, very persistent, and just trying to figure things out. And so the things that she says, it's based upon something, right? It's based upon real world experience. So fast forwarding, things happen, life happens. She got her trucking company and did other things in life. She really likes to instruct and teach, and she's really great at it. And I like to do what I do. I like to see things go from, small, or a thought, come to fruition and grow, So if you've got an idea, I love to, to see that nurture and become something. So Freight Connect, that's what it is for me. It was something, an idea. It was something small. It grew, and here we are. And so our conversation right now, what would you say? Why are we talking now?
Well, we're talking now because I came in and he had this sitting here, and it's really good. Like, it's a snapshot, and it's talking about the tariffs, how tariffs affect trucking. When it comes to educated stuff, intellectual things, analysis things, I'm happy that I at Paul, because it's like nobody, I feel like sometimes, my nerdy truck brain, he can relate to my nerdy truck brain. And so when I came in.
Time out. So you remember, do you remember when you were in school, you were in college, right? And then you remember you had a class, and it was economics. All right. Now, everyone doesn't take the economics well at all. I mean, it's like, boring, I think, is what people think. I got my degree in economics. I love economics. So she was needing some help, and I helped her. And how did you do in that class?
I ended up getting a B. Everybody else in the class got D's and F's, and I ended up getting a B.
So you got a solid B.
A solid B, and I was happy.
She was setting the curve. Yeah.
Yeah, I set the curve in the class. Yeah.
Yeah.
People was trying to figure out how you know all this stuff and this and that, because we had study groups and stuff, and I ended up setting the curve.
Yeah. So as far as learning and consuming and understanding, she's an amazing teacher. As far as myself goes, I like to see these things. They may seem difficult or challenging or boring or what have you, but they make a difference, right? They make a difference in what. I'll just say this, and I'll let her continue. The trucking industry follows the economy. Flat out bottom line. It's that simple. When you're in trucking and you're so worried about your day to day that you have to do, and I understand that there's a lot to do, and she's been in it, right? Over me on the other side, I'm like, okay, but you need to understand some of these things, right? Because it can make a difference in your business, not just in, just saying that, but you tell me, what does any of the stuff you hear in the news have to do with your business, right? How can it make a difference? Now, we don't have to go there and, just start talking about it, but what we can do is find these little things, right? Just take a little piece of it, like you learned in economics when you were in school. How does this really make sense? I think that's probably why she did so well, because we were able to connect it to real world stuff, right? And she was able to understand it, intellectualize it, and then actually do well in the class. And that's what we bring as Freight Connect. We bring that to the market. We take these things that seem very complicated, we break it down so that you can understand it and understand your business and what you're getting into. You might get into this industry, you might be into the market right now, and you're like, well, I'm trying to scramble around because things are changing. Let's understand how that all works. And when you do understand it, you're going to be able to make choices that are different than other people. You're going to be able to communicate with brokers and carriers or shippers, even carriers, in a whole different way. And when you're able to do that, your vision becomes greater than it was before. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. Like I said, we were talking about, the tariffs and all of that stuff in trucking. And like I said, Paul is, he brings the analysis out. And I walked in, I saw this, and I was like, I even see how I'm dressed today. Like, I was like, I needed something to motivate me today. And this conversation is just motivating me because on here, he has like retail sales consumer confidence index. And I said, most people that are carriers that have trucks, this is stuff that we don't think about, because your everyday life is getting a load, taking care of your drivers, taking care of your truck, doing any maintenance and things like that on the truck. And on the paper, he talks about panic buying and how, we're in a process right now, like everybody's in panic mode. What is this tariff going to do? What this, what that, And when I was looking at it, I started talking to him, and I said, the thing about it is, whatever your feelings are about Trump, because I'm not going to take it political, but whatever your feelings are about Trump, in what he's doing, he is trying to bring the business back to America. Like I said, I'm not getting political, whatever your views are or whatever, but looking at it from a business aspect and from a trucking aspect, is that if business picks up in America and it does end up going like that, then guess what? Trucking and freight has to be moved. You know what I'm saying? If the tariffs are so, instead of focusing on the 25% tariff and the China and this and that, focus on, okay, so if this means that American business has to pick up, because now we don't have no other choice but to make our own product and do our own thing or whatever, then guess what? The stuff got to move. It got to move some kind of way. If they making it, then it got to move, And one thing that I always say in my training, 80% of America's freight is moved on a truck. Even if it's coming off the train, even if it's coming off the ship, at some point it has to hit the truck, And the trucking industry is so big and so wide. Like, if you want to go into oil, you can go into oil. If you want to go into drayage, you can go into drayage. We were talking about like Class B dump trucks, things like, it's just a lot of opportunity there, And I think sometimes people that are in trucking can be pessimistic. As soon as something comes, all of a sudden you panic and this and that, you know what I'm saying? And I'm always optimistic because there's so many different ways you can move. That's what we were talking about. You're shifting and things like that. Talk about the panic buyer.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Y'all,
So
this makes so much sense. I'm gonna let him talk, but when he said it to me this morning, I was like, that is so makes sense. Go ahead.
I don't remember what I said, but the just to kind of follow along with what she's saying. Again, retail sales, right, and consumer confidence. Those were the only two things that I had put on. I mean, I have a larger report talks about economic indicators, and we hit up on it to explain it, and then also to tell how it fits into trucking and how you can use that, right? Whether it's that you're communicating with a broker, a shipper, another carrier, or just utilizing it within your business. So we break all that down. Okay. Now, with that said, she's talking about panic buying. You look at the retail sales, right? And you get the report, and you're like, what does that mean? You might have heard something about it in the news. That's because the report just came out last week. It comes out once a month, I think sometime at the middle of the month. And it basically is telling you, like the month before, how much product is being sold out there, right? In terms of retail. Okay. Now think about it. All that stuff, you look around your office, you look around your truck, you look around your home, all this stuff moved on a what?
Truck.
It all moved on a truck, right? Where'd you get it? It's all retail sales, right? There are different levels. You've got retail sales, right? I'm not going to say that. Anyway, you have retail sales, and the consumer is the one that's purchasing this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our GDP, right, is 70% of that.
Tell them what GDP is.
Gross national product. So that's every country has a GDP, right? And you can go and look and see what their GDP is, right? All around the world. America has the greatest GDP, right? Well, that means that we're producing what we are producing. We produce in terms of our, like our spending level. And that's why Trump is so, he looks at America as the golden ticket, right? He looks at America as I should have brought my Trump dollar in here, that gold dollar I got. But at any rate, Trump, he looks at America as the golden ticket, right? That's because we spend. And other countries, what do they want? They want that dollar, right? Or they want to get that market. That's just like your local market. If you've got a company and they're just doing really well, everybody wants a Walmart, Walmart as a local company, everybody wants a piece of Walmart. Everybody wants to get their product in Walmart, right? That's the golden ticket, right? Whole Foods or something like that, a nationwide chain. So everybody wants to come to America. So here we are, GDP. As far as that goes, Trump is like, if you want to play ball with us, you got to pay to play. That's basically what he's saying. He's saying that things are unfair and unbalanced, but you got to pay to play. Now, with that said, it can backfire, right? But in the meantime, freight does need to move regardless, right? But
regardless of your political views, what you think or whatever, freight has to move.
Freight has to move, but it does this because the economy changes all the time, and freight does this. And then the question is, why am I not getting paid that money I was getting paid for just a month ago, by the broker? The broker must be doing something. Why am I, they moved their plant, they're not producing like they were before. Now production is happening over here instead of here, right? There are answers to those questions, which is way beyond the broker.
Yes. If you got to be educated on this stuff. I don't mean to cut you off because so many times people just, like when I ran my dispatch center and everybody, Missy Lane, the broker's taking all the money. I used to be a broker. So, like I played all parts of the game. You know what I'm saying? It's not necessarily the broker is taking the money. The broker might be taking the money sometimes,
It happens.
But it's not always that the broker is taking the money. It's educational stuff like that goes on behind some of this stuff. But go ahead. Not that the broker ain't always taking the money. Go ahead.
Well, with that, I mean, it's a business. You have a business. Your trucking company is a business, right? Brokering is a business. Brokering is your sales team. You see how that works? There are connections. Unless you have someone doing it in-house, then you need to be able to figure that out. You go to a load board and really enjoy doing that, or maybe not, but that's where you're going to find your business. You have salespeople out there that are putting opportunities on a board. Okay, so that's how that works. Now, if you want to put it all together, you can build relationships with brokers, right? You can have your own in-house people. You can look at brokering just as, the backhaul for you, but you built on the other side and build some relationships. You see what I'm saying? So how do I do that? All this stuff that we're talking about, and with my company, we work to train you on that so that you can establish your own sales, if you want to call it that. But those are things that you should know about how that all works, because it makes a difference for your business. You'll see things differently. But getting to her panic buying, we were talking about the retail sales, right? When we see the report on retail sales and we see it do this, go up, then it's like, oh, wow, retail is great if we just look at it on the surface. But when we take a little deeper dive, we realize, oh, it was the automotive and parts industry, right? That was why it did this. Well, what does that mean? Like if everything else, is kind of, going up or is steady moving in terms of sales and retail, okay, fine. But when we look at that automotive, what made it tick up? You go to Trump's tariffs, because people are buying vehicles to prevent or prior to the tariffs going into place, right? So Trump basically has created a market for the auto industry for this time period until those tariffs go into place and people are buying, which is a smart decision, right? So it's at home, they're making a smart business decision, if you want to call it that. But you as a carrier, you have to understand that. You have to know that, right? You have to be able to see these things that are happening and understand why they're happening, and you can make better decisions, right? Because watch this, the way I look at it, if there is that panic buying going on, there might be a panic buy that happens here pretty soon on other products, right? Before these tariffs go into play. And then you're going to see shelves, empty, right?
Eggs.
And then eggs, that's already been happening. And then all of a sudden, there's not going to be the products available like they were before. It's called scarcity, right? Scarcity causes prices to go up. Scarcity means a limit on items, right? It's not anything that you see, everything has a price, and that's because there's a scarcity on it. There's not an abundance and, endless abundance of things. So there's a price for things. And now when she's talking about tariffs and the cars, people are going out to buy, and then eventually the prices will go up and people won't be buying, right? And so that market, we don't know what that's going to do to that market. But here's the thing you got to think about too. People who move freight in that market, truckers, company, they got to find freight somewhere else. And what that means is if they're now going to be looking somewhere else to move product, then that means other industries, the capacity is going to go up in terms of number of trucks, because they're trying to find other product to move. And then the prices are going to go down on freight because there's so much capacity in these other markets, right? So then that will start to explain why you're seeing the rates drop, when these shifts are happening, when people are now like trying to figure out, where am I going to move freight? Now they're going to put their trucks in the market, in your market, like, okay, I've got a truck too. Now shippers have a choice.
Like COVID.
Exactly. COVID was a lot of people don't want to talk about COVID anymore in the trucking industry, like, well, that's behind us,
because it hurt.
Blah, blah, blah. That
at the end, it hurt them. It hurt them at the end. Everybody was, honey, COVID was our gold ticket. I used to be so ashamed because I was like, one side of me, COVID is horrible. But then the other side was like, what the heck, But when it came caving in, honey, that's why I don't nobody want to talk about it, because they hurt. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's, COVID was, it was a horrible thing that happened. It was the worst thing that happened. But we had this situation 100 years ago, which was with the Spanish flu. And if you understand some things there, which we wrote about and we put it out there for people, and then you really take that in and you're able to see what happened back then, and then be able to say, okay, I understand, I see what's going on today. And you'll be able to, instead of panicking, you'll be able to understand, what's going on and how to operate in this situation and understand that we're going to come out okay on the other side, right?
Always.
But at the same time, too, what do we learn through this process, right? And a lot of people, again, today don't care to like really talk about it. But I always say, let me put it to you this way. You know this. There was a lot of people that came into our industry during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of truck companies showed up,
I have
right?
to. Mm-hmm.
And the capacity that was there, it wasn't even enough capacity to still move the product,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But when we got on the other side of COVID, which we kept telling people it was coming, and we even told them when it was going to happen, it was like February, March of 2022, I think it was 23, I can't remember. But at any rate, that it was going to do this, right? Volume was going to decline. And with that, since there were so many trucks in the industry, there was no business for them. And guess what had to happen? The trucks needed to leave. A lot of trucking companies needed to get out of the market. And that is just how it is. If you look at this whole industry as an individual business, let's say Walmart, you're running Walmart, and then all of a sudden the customers aren't coming, because there's a competitor in town, right? Then you're going to shrink. You're not going to need all the employees that you have, right? Or even in a grand opening, at some point, it does this, and you're not going to need that many employees, then you have to lay off. It's the same way in our trucking industry. The whole industry as a whole, there was a lot of people that came in, like at Walmart. Oh, we need all these employees. All these people came in. And then when the demand wasn't as it was, which it happens all the time, it goes down, it goes up, and it goes down, then there needs to be an exodus. It's not somebody firing you saying, hey, we don't need you anymore. But the market itself, I guess, is the one that's saying, hey, I'm sorry, we don't need you anymore.
And I think that's where people, like, if you weren't, to be in this game, you got to be in the game. You know what I'm saying? And so you had people, which as a consultant, I helped a lot of people get in, you know what I'm saying, through that time. But if you're not, I don't know if I want to say passionate, I don't know what word I want to use, but if you're not in it, then you're not in it. And so, like you said, things go up, things go down. That's basic economy. I learned from Paul and Kathy. That's basic economy. It come up, it go down. So, I remember when it hit, because I was one of the ones not listening. But when it hit, I started talking about pivoting. When I saw it hitting, I was like, okay, now's the time to pivot. You got to find something else. You got your truck. Okay, what else is it to do? Maybe quit going long haul. You got to start doing short haul. Short haul, basically, you can still get your money. It's just not going to be as much money. And then I remember the drastic of it was that the fuel, I was so mad at Biden. Like,
you're mad at Biden?
This ain't a political show, but I was so mad because I felt like, why you don't get in there and make the fuel prices go down? Do something to make some fuel prices go down, because that's what killed us. Like, the rates went back to what they normally was, like $2.50, $2. It ain't like the rates was $1 a mile or trash like that. The rates actually went back to what they were. But what killed us was I'm paying $5, $6 a gallon for fuel.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So give me my rates. Okay, I'll adjust the rates, but come on, y'all, lower this fuel down so I can see some money at the end. But the fuel is still high, and y'all done dropped the rates, so it's not matching up. You know what I'm saying? And lo and behold, if a truck break down and you gotta buy a $500 tire or something like that, I'm already doing short runs, so my truck is like doing 300 miles a day, and I'm making $600-$700 or whatever. So I'm paying my driver. Then after you hit me with this big old fuel ticket, so I was mad at Biden or whoever I needed to be mad at, because somebody could have got in there and adjusted some fuel. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm serious. Like, the rates went down. If you've been in trucking before COVID, then you would know that the rates just adjusted themselves to normal. It's not like they were like $1 a mile or 60 cents a mile or nothing like that. But if you got the low rates and then the fuel like this, people couldn't survive. I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't survive.
That was 2023, right? 2000.
I got lost on my years.
I had two. I mean, there's so much that's happened. I mean, you can go back and we wrote about it. But the question though is, like, when you said fuel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you're definitely right. So the question, do you remember what else happened right around that time?
Honey, I had a hysterectomy and my trucks broke down while they was on the road. And all the money I had saved up for my surgery that I thought I was going to be cool. All of a sudden, it just was a mess. I came out of surgery having trucks broke down and on the phone, high on medicine. You trying to recover and got to figure this truck stuff out. Yeah, I remember that. Like,
That's not what I was asking about, but life happens, right? And regardless, trucking goes on, right? And
Yeah.
so during that time period, also it was February 24th. I think it was 2023. That was
it
I
was
call
in
it
February.
huh?
Was it? Okay, go ahead.
That I call it the and it was the Putin invasion of Ukraine. All right. When that happened, it was February 24th, and it was 2023.
But trucking started acting up a little bit before that. But I know where you're going
Well,
with it.
yeah, we said we were calling it back in August before that. I think it's 2022, or whenever it was. We were like, it's going to change, and we even said around February, March. I've got it written down somewhere, and even prior to, I think it was in January, there was TEUs. These are oh man, what is that? Total equivalent unit. What does the T stand for? That's ocean. Okay, that's on the ocean vessel. So you got these 20 units, the containers.
Okay.
That's what we're talking about.
Uh-huh.
The containers come over from China, right? And they were at record levels. You remember the ocean, the ships were on the water waiting to dock. There was just so much a backlog of freight that was not being able to get off the dock and get onto the trucks because it was so much freight coming.
Ain't that happening right now?
There is, in the sense that there was a forward pull of product from China to prevent the having to pay on the tariffs. So that was going on at the end of last year, and then even a little bit this year too. So there has been that forward. It's not that there's a huge demand, consumers want to spend, but businesses, importers are trying to avoid the tariffs. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, so there has been this, I'm not going to call it false sense, of volume, but that is just how business is. So you have to make a decision. I'm going to be bringing in freight, so because I want to avoid the tariff. So you got this volume of freight that comes in, right? And so now, if you are in the know, then you can move it into warehouses or wherever it's going to go, and then retailers will have product in warehouses, and then they're going to have to move it when consumers need the product. And but as time goes on, if the tariffs still exist, then that prices are going to go up.
So what about the PUU?
Okay, so back then, PIU, I call it PIU, because it was such a horrible thing that they invaded, Ukraine, and so it's Putin's invasion of Ukraine. That's what I call it. And
so that's not like a technical word. Like I can't Google that. You thought of that.
Right. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my term. So, any rate, because it stinks. It was a bad thing. It should not have happened. Right. So, any rate,
you should copyright that. No. Somebody gonna take it from you. But go ahead.
Okay. All right. Now put it across the T-shirt. Okay.
Pew. Go ahead.
Yes, that's a good idea. It really is.
I think so. And we going live. Some big millionaire gonna see this and say, "Pew, you."
Can you stop talking?
Yep. Go ahead.
So, anyway, so then what happened is there was that invasion, and this is the time where the volume started doing this. Right. And then, but at the same time, then you had what they call like a perfect storm. Then you have fuel doing this. And you had this whole invasion of Ukraine. That played a part in regards to the fuel price. That's when it was like, all right, we're going to, here's talking about sourcing fuel, talking about Putin. He was going to be shutting down because they're a big exporter of fuel, natural gas and what have you going into Europe. So he was talking about shutting it down, or they were talking about shutting it down, and as a tactic, in regards to his invasion to Ukraine. So, fuel became pretty volatile during that time period. So if you know some of these things, because February 27th, I wrote an article 3 days after the invasion. I was like, it might be over 5,800 miles away that this thing is going on, but how does it impact us? At the time, it wasn't. It was like, okay, it's probably at a distance, but you just want to stay on top of it to be able to understand how this is impacting you. You see, so we here at Freight Connect, we work to bring the dots, connect the dots, so that you have a whole different vision, and you see things in a different way, and you can operate in a different way. And while others are challenged in trying to keep their business open, their doors open, you're operating in a whole different way, because this is a business.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah, I mean, you exactly right. I think that we get lost and don't think about those things, like you said about the furthest thing from my mind was the PU people, at the time. But I remember, when I started seeing it, saying, okay, it's time to pivot. Like, you got to have a pivoting. And that's when I started the whole CDL training and things like that. And I jumped out, because you just have to, it's not that you give up on the industry. You just pivot, you figure something else out, you figure out what else to do or whatever. To me, that's the beautiful thing about trucking. But for people who just were not, like I said, got in to make some money or whatever, you know what I'm saying? They couldn't see the vision of the pivot. Because the thing is, when you have stuff like that, COVID that go on, like right now, your prices of trucks are low. Your trucks, your trailers are low. You want to buy a truck now. It's time to buy a truck. You know what I'm saying? And with your advice, then if I get a truck, I know that the market is going to be picking up soon. Because if you go in and you try to get a truck while the market is picking up, I can remember during COVID, us buying $70,000-$80,000 trucks that was 35 or 25 before COVID, because everybody got their hands in it. So now it's really based on, that's why it's important to have that forward thinking and knowing what, like you said, it's not you don't have a crystal ball, but analyzing those things. And I was telling Paul, a lot of times us as carriers and things like that, you don't look at that kind of stuff, and I think, like when you were talking, like, now it's time. Get you a truck, get you a trailer, you can run it, run it how you gonna run it or whatever, and just wait. Because like he said, the perfect storm is coming, honey. It's coming back. What goes up goes down, up, down, up, down. But anywho, anything else?
There's plenty to talk about, because we could go on, I know, for hours, but nope, that's it.
That's it. All right. Give me your information, Paul Kingethi.
Okay. Paul Kingethi, FR8 Connect, Freight Connect. You can see us at www.fr8connect.com or at www.elevate.fr8.com. You can give me a call here at 866-342-0040, extension 109, or you can email me at paul.k@fr8connect.com.
And what Paul does, I think it's an amazing business. If you are a carrier and you already have your truck, he helps to bring you like direct shipper contracts. Direct shippers are, I know a lot of you guys come into this video and you're not even in trucking yet. You're curious about trucking and things like that. Direct shippers, I always say, if you know how to get a direct shipper, you can write yourself a gold ticket in this industry. You can go anywhere if you know how to get shippers. And I've watched Paul do it. So, if you are a carrier and you're looking for those direct shipper connect, I know we are gonna go. But one of the things that he had on his report that I was looking at was talking about, direct shippers and going in and being able to talk these things to direct shippers. You know what I'm saying? This is what the future holds and this and that. So, right, we know from forecasting that rates are going to be going up. More freight is going to be moving. Capacity is going to make that happen. So right now, the stuff that you got, we need to go ahead and tie in a contract so that when all this little stuff happens, you already are contracted with me, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You do have capacity. Sorry.
Go ahead.
You do have like capacity. There's trucks that have been leaving the market over the past year, and this is information that we do provide within our report. And then at the same time, in terms of demand coming up, it definitely there can be a spike, but again, watching what's going on with the Trump administration, that can definitely have a direct impact on the economy, because that's what we follow. We follow our industry follows the economy, right? And when you know a little bit about it, and are able to communicate with your shippers or potential shippers, one, it can develop retention, and it can develop new opportunities, right? And yeah, and if you're looking the way we look at it, we're talking about being in the business for the long haul. And when we say the long haul, no pun intended, but if you're going to be in this business and have it as a career, let's say you're in it for 10 years, 20 years, right? Why would you go 10, 20 years and not know about this stuff?
Yeah.
Why would you go 10, 20 years
Yeah.
and just struggle? Why would you go 10, 20 years and not be able to make, like, if you decide you're going to stay in it, at least understand the other dynamics that really make a difference. And then if you decide that you're going to get out of it, be able to make a better educated decision if that's the decision, if that's the direction you try to go. Also, if you were to get out, or let's say stay in it, you can invest in other things, right?
Yeah,
You can look at it from the standpoint of,
Yeah.
I'm making a little bit of money, let me put it aside, and I want to diversify and get into other things. And the information that we present can help you in those other areas of your ventures, right? So when you think about that and say, well, I just want to move a truck, that's fine. I just want to drive, you can do that. Then it's not for you, and that's okay, right? But for those that are talking about getting into the industry, if you're sitting there with your husband or your wife and you guys are making this decision, talk about it. Is the decision for the long haul, or are we talking about just trying something, And if you got the money to do that and just try it and say, hey, all right, that's totally your choice.
Yeah, I like that. I like how you said, y'all need to make this video go viral. I'm so serious. And one of the reasons why I even turned the video on, because we were talking about consultation. And I was telling Paul, I said, the consultation market in trucking is really, it's not, you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't get so many emails and phone calls and questions and things like that if it was like a big consultation market in trucking. I always tell people, be careful. Be careful who you talk to. Be careful what information you get, even on YouTube videos and stuff, because everybody has their own take on stuff, and sometimes people, they don't realize the pie is big enough for all of us. You know what I'm saying? And they'll snake you. They'll tell you this, tell you that, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And really, it's because they don't want you to be in, or they got their viewpoint, but not a wide viewpoint on everything. So you have to be careful in this game who you get your knowledge from, who you get your education from. I'm so serious. It is such a treacherous industry. They will chew you up and eat you and spit you out, and you just be looking like, what the world? You know what I'm saying? Not to say I'm perfect, not to say I've done everything perfect, in this industry. I know from experiences, you know what I'm saying? And I think stuff like this is educational, and like he said, if you're gonna get in, get in. If not, stay away. Go find something else, put your money in. But if you're gonna get in, get in. And for me, I always tell people to
it's work.
It's hard work. It's hard work. But we play with big numbers over here. In trucking, we play with big numbers for real. And honestly, that's why, I remember one time I was thinking about real estate and this and that, and I was just like, make $1,000 a month. I've, going to go collect rent. If I got 2 properties, maybe 2,000, 3,000. And, and trucking, we play with big numbers. You got a truck, your truck should be bringing in at least $200,000 a year. You know what I'm saying? Your expenses should be $100,000 a year. That leaves $100,000 profit. That's per truck. You know what I mean? And I'm just saying, depending upon how you run it, you operate it, your mechanics and things like that, and I think that's kind of what got me addicted. I don't know, maybe I'll stick this thing out, figure this little thing out, because I don't know where I'm going, make some kind of money like this. You know what I'm saying? Not gonna say my money management, it ain't money management. Trucking don't teach you money management, but I'm just saying, but it's a beautiful industry if you get into it, and you don't have to be the one to drive the truck. You don't got to be the one, to, you know what I'm saying, do all of that or whatever. I don't have a CD. I don't know how to drive a truck.
It's a good way to learn. I mean, if you get into it and then you drive for a year, 2 or whatever, and then you want to get out, I've known sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
I know a guy, he was in trucking for quite a few years. I want to say 20, and he just did it himself, kept to himself and what have you. And he did want to grow and expand. And then when he and I connected and I worked with him, helped him out and got, some opportunities for him, he expanded to 7 trucks in 7 months. And but then he learned there's a whole nother ball game to that, and just went through it, but he learned. Right. It's not a school. Maybe there is a school class that you can go to.
It is. I got a class.
Well, I'm sorry. Here we go. Right here. And this and that is valid, because for me, I'm like, when I'm communicating with people, I definitely want to educate them. Right. And because I've heard so many things that I just have to stop and listen and let people talk, because of where they have come from and what they see. They've talked to other drivers. They've talked to other people, and everybody thinks it's this. When really it's this, or maybe that does exist. Maybe that problem, that is a real problem, but you are spending your time in the wrong area. Your focus is wrong. Maybe there is this issue with brokers, right? Maybe it's broker transparency, right? But come on, as a business, a lot of businesses aren't going to show you their cost, right?
Broker transparency is not going to happen.
If it does, and if it doesn't, the thing about it is that if I go to get a haircut, I'm not asking them to show me your cost. I'm just telling, hey, I can go down the street and they charge me $10, and I can go over here and they charge me $30. And I'm not asking about their costs. I make a decision, right?
You use your negotiation skills.
That's what we're talking about.
If you got negotiation skills, I don't care how much broker's making. I care about how much I'm making. So I'm gonna negotiate. You know what I'm saying? And whatever broker you are, I'm thinking I could care less. I know how much money I needs to make. You know what I'm saying? And you gonna always tell me, the broker, well, I'm not making no money off of this. And I'm gonna always tell you, well, I got a whole lot of dead here. Like, it's just a fun game. That's what we do.
But I'm gonna ask you this though. You said you know how much money you need to make, right?
Yeah.
But my question then is, do you know what your costs are?
Off the load.
Definitely. Like what your truck expenses and everything, and down to the penny, being able to
say,
this
you can't know down to the penny.
This is how much it costs me, every month or whatever. These are my costs. And therefore, when I'm moving a load, I'm okay with if I'm making this, because I'm able to take care of my expenses, right? Where a lot of people, they don't know what that is. And when they don't know, you're just operating, not as a business.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So these things are important.
You have to know those expenses, and you got to know in trucking, you have, like I said, you're estimated. Anything can happen any morning you wake up.
True.
Any morning I woke up, I can't even tell you how many days I woke up. I woke up one morning, the truck is in Virginia, and he called me. He didn't went in the ditch. And I told him, well, hold on, let me figure something out. Don't let them touch that truck. I said, don't let them touch it. Well, it's in traffic and the police did. I don't care. Don't let them touch it. He calls me back. They got him out the ditch and charged me $4,600. And I'm just like, I told you, don't let them touch the truck. Well, the police officer came and da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, you in a small town, they all work together. Of course he's going to come and bring his own record with him, because they all working together. $4,600. I'm waking up, I got to spend $4,650. And, you got out to get you out the hole. You know what I'm saying? And Lowe paid me $2,000. So, so you definitely know your expenses, but at the same time, everything is estimated. Like, you know what I'm saying? So when I was talking about money management, I wasn't talking about business money management. I was talking about personal money management. But that's why some of us shop too much. But
she's the consumer.
That's
the thing. We're all consumers. Remember that. I don't care at what level you are in the business, and we all buy stuff, right?
Yeah.
We all buy shirts. We buy holidays come around. We all spend money, And in our industry, we like it when you spend money, right? Because when stuff moves, it keeps us busy, So the economy is made up of 4 different. It's made up of. Did you know this? I haven't asked you yet.
I know, but I know it. When you said the economy is made up of 4, I just already know. I don't know.
It's made up of 4. Okay, so it's made up of, the way I look at it, it's made up of 4 pillars, right? One of them is the consumer.
Okay.
If the consumer doesn't exist, we have no economy. If we have no economy, how we know it today, they're not buying stuff. If things aren't, being moving. We don't have trucking industry.
Yeah.
So the consumer is the main driver of all this, right?
Mhm.
So you got, even whether it's travel, services, goods, whatever. So you got the consumer.
Mhm.
The other would be, just think about it, somebody that has a need. Then you have the entrepreneur.
Mhm.
The entrepreneur is the one that's figuring out, okay, the consumer wants this and needs
Okay.
this. They develop, they create.
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs or whomever, right? Yeah, love Steve,
Love
but there's, so whether it's, let's say, for newborns, right?
Before you start, tell me the
Uh-oh.
four, so I can't have them in my mind.
That's two,
Consumer, entrepreneur,
right? And then you need investors.
investor.
Because they need to be able to fund it or whatever. You're looking for, as an entrepreneur and somebody to fund, and they want to make money, entrepreneur or investors, right?
Mhm.
And then I probably should have said labor before that. Labor, because you have the entrepreneur and then you need the help, right? Within the business, whether it's someone that's ringing stuff up or in the factories and stuff like that, the manufacturing plants or what have you. But then you need the investors to make all that happen because they provide capital, right?
So is this book stuff or is this something you came up with too?
Well, I mean, I've learned it. I guess I came up with it, but learned it over time. I mean, okay, all the stuff you hear her talking about, when did you get into this industry?
08.
08. And what is it today? Today's the
2025.
And so many years is that? Do the math. I put her on the spot. So
18.
18? I think you close. What is that? You're close. It's 17.
All right.
That's great. Good. So 17. I was doing the math last. At any rate, so 17. This is 17 years of experience. Okay. Me, however many years I've been at it,
25.
I mean, yes, and then I mean, you can go back further. You have sales experience. You can go way
I
back.
got your number right.
I told you. Oh, mine is right. 25. Okay, so you go back.
2008.
2008.
Or I did my 17.
I was 2002.
I did my 17 plus 8.
So
because you was at that company for 8 years.
Well, 2008 or 2002 to 2008. So that's 6 years. Okay.
It's 25.
We're gonna go with that.
Okay, go here.
25. You all do the math, and if we're wrong, good. So the point is that I've been in sales for over 30 years or something like that professionally. You've been in sales for a long time. Has it been that long? Something like that. You've been in sales for a long time.
27 years.
So, okay. So this is experience here, right? So when you ask me, is that something I came up with, right? Just over the years, these are things that you just, you understand, and so just becomes kind of second nature that you see. So those four things, and I'll be honest, I did read it somewhere, right? And it was like, of course.
So these are the four things that make the economy.
What I say is an economy makes up an economy, which would be
the
consumer,
the entrepreneur,
the labor, and then the investor. Now, with that, when you have that, you have influences, right? And what I mean by that is there are things that are interjected in that make this economy grow and makes this economy do this, right? So it expands and it contracts. And so when it expands, there might be a stimulus that's put in there, right? Maybe the economy is contracting and it needs to grow. Then you're going to have stimulus money that can be put in. We understood that through COVID, right? But then you can also have disease that comes in. We had COVID, and COVID caused the economy to do this, right? To contract. You see, you have population growth, and that can play a part on the economy, right? You have job situations, people getting laid off, people retaining jobs, better paying jobs. You have tech, AI comes into play. We don't know exactly how that's going to work out as we go along here. And I mean, it's gonna make a difference. I was just mentioning about AI, but you're looking at this. But watch this. You will see a contraction of the need of employees because AI is going to be able to do so many things. And you have automation. Those type of things can contract the number of people you need for certain jobs, but there's still opportunities that will open up. So the economy is constantly doing this. And with that, you have your GDP, which they would love to see that track around 2% growth year over year. but your economy does this, it expands and contracts, and you have all these influences that causes you to spend money, to save money, right? And there's just so many other things that we can talk about. So when you start understanding these things and really start putting it together, you'll be able to make better decisions whether to get into trucking, whether not to, whether you can see it for the long haul. Is this just a blip? But you can talk to your clients as well and talk to them on that other level, and they start seeing you as a partner.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? A partner versus just a fly-by-night. Not that you're going to be here and gone tomorrow and not be in business, meaning that you're just there to serve that purpose. Let's say it's a busy season, right? You come in and you move freight for them, right? But are you going to consistently be there for them years or for the months later? They're like, well, I've got my core carriers. So they keep them, retain them while they push you away because they don't need you anymore. But it's just like on a job. You remember where back in the day it was, I'm going to get a job at whatever business during the holiday season, and I hope they keep me on, right? I hope that they keep me on. That was a way of you getting into that business and being able to have a career, right? And it's the same way in trucking. How do I get into this business? Maybe it's during the produce season, right? But you want to do the best job, but not only that, build relationships so that as time goes on, it might be a year or two down the road. Oh, I remember you. And all of a sudden, you might end up being able to stay on board with them.
And go see them. That was one thing I think I learned a valuable lesson when we brokered. Get on the airplane, get your car, and go see these people. Like, that's just go see them. All it really takes one good visit.
Shake a hand, shake a hand.
Yeah, and you with them for life when it comes to shippers. I think that'll be a good topic. Our next session will be, how to work with shippers like that. Anywho, we've been on here about an hour. Y'all make this go viral, like for real. Not because I care about a viral check or nothing like that. Like, I don't even know how that stuff works, but I just think that this is like really good content. Like for real, I really do think this is good stuff that people need to know that are interested or looking at getting in trucking and stuff.
Yeah.
You what?
You're right. It is.
Yeah. Like for real. Like we are a secret society or something. You know what I'm saying? Trucking is like a secret society. And I'm just saying, if it's somebody looking at getting in trucking or a carrier or something, I just think this is good information, just to me anyway.
Can I put this on my channel too?
Yeah.
Yeah. So would you say your handle or whatever, and then when I put it on, they'll know you, like your number or whatever, or I don't know how that.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Always. My name is Elena Kingethi. It is telephone number 816-594-6199, website www.ekmempire.com. We do, of course, trucking consultation. We do training. We do CDL training, freight broker training, dispatch training, everything Paul just talked about, the logistics side of training, operating a trucking company, how to operate your trucking company, all those type of things, that's what we do. And Paul, like he said, he works with Freight Connect, the direct shippers, and they do training on that side, how to work with the sales team, how to work with your shippers. You sign up to get his newsletters and things like that. You know what I'm saying? It's a very, very intellectual, very articulate, very smart man in the industry, like for real, so that is it. We love you guys. We thank you guys for listening. I know it was long. My videos don't really be this long, y'all know, but share it, like for real, share it, because this is good stuff. If you want to get in truck game or if you're not wanting to get in. Thank you very much. You got anything you want to end with?
No, that's it. I appreciate the time, really do.
All right, love y'all. Bye. That is good.